Good afternoon, Alamo Warriors. I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time out of their busy schedules to join us for our first Facebook Live virtual town hall session. This is the first of many to come for the command. This afternoon, what we'd like to do is to take the opportunity to recognize the achievements of our outstanding recruiting non-commissioned officers and our Department of the Army civilians, as well as give you an update on COVID, the state of the command, and then have an opportunity to allow you to open the floor for some questions and dialogue. Over to you, Sergeant Major.
Thank you, ma'am. So team, Alamo Warriors, we are halfway with this recruiting year. It's almost done. And I'll tell you, we have several initiatives and programs that's going to help us as a whole achieve our mission. And I will tell you, I am extremely proud to be your command sergeant major and have a seat at the table to actually represent you. So thank you for everything that you have done for the first half and on to the second half. And I know you will make us as equally proud. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am and Sergeant Major. Before we get started, I'd like to say on behalf of the Advertising and Public Affairs Department, my name's Melissa Bell. I'll be narrating this event, and thank you very much to everybody out there who's taken the time to attend. Before we get started, we have a couple codes of conduct to run through. First off, please ask your questions or provide feedback by posting comments, but you must be logged in to do so. Please type your rank, name, and RSID of the poster at the end. Questions may be on production, quality of life, or any variety of topics, but should be broad in nature so they are applicable to the general audience. There may not be time to answer every question, but they will be addressed later through another forum. This is a public forum and not secure, so remain vigilant of Army policies regarding social media. For the agenda today, we will go into our Alamo Warrior recognitions next, where we will recognize the excellence of our soldiers and civilians. Following our recognitions, we will have our COVID-19 update. Up next will be our State of the Brigade, as well as upcoming events. And then you will expect a question and answer session where you can post your questions in the comment section of this Facebook Live forum. And we will try and answer as many as we can by the end of the session. With that, we have our Alamo Warrior recognitions.
All right, team. So just like to congratulate some of our outstanding achievers going back to FY20. So for FY20, top battalion prior to COVID was the San Antonio Battalion. Post-COVID, the Dallas Battalion. Top company for FY20 pre-COVID was Cape Girardeau Company, and post was the Huntsville Company. Our top recruiter for the regular Army for FY20 was Staff Sergeant Adakari, and for Army Reserve, top recruiter was Staff Sergeant Maya. FY21 for the first quarter, our top battalion went to the Dallas Battalion. Top company, the McKinney Company, and I'll turn it over to Sergeant Major Smith to highlight the individual recruiting NCOs.
All right, so the top recruiter for first quarter, FY21, Staff Sergeant Rafael Rivero. Top Army Reserve recruiter, Staff Sergeant Naheem Wind. And for the top recruiter, we had Staff Sergeant Jerry King, San Antonio Recruiting Battalion. So USAREC top recruiters, first quarter, Sergeant Wynn, again, for Echo 8 Whiskey, and Sergeant Rafael Rivera for Kilo 5. And I do want to highlight the Sergeant Artie Murphy Club inductees. It's Staff Sergeant Siobhan Marshall, Oklahoma City Battalion, Staff Sergeant Nicholas Woodlord, Dallas Battalion. And then also we had a competition where we changed our brigade coin. So we had several submissions, I think it was 52 submissions to the new brigade coin design. So no one knows who the winner is yet. And I will tell you, the winner for the new brigade coin design is Staff Sergeant Brendan Razor from Gilbert Recruiting Station, Tempe Company, Phoenix Battalion. Congratulations, that's an awesome job.
And Staff Sergeant Razor will receive an ARCOM, and as well as all of the individual non-commissioned officers that submitted a design, they will also receive an Army Achievement Medal. I'd like to say thank you to all of those that presented a design. It was very difficult to get it down to the top 10 and then to have to do the top 5. I had to bring the staff on board to kind of help the Sergeant Major and I vote that. But outstanding participation, and the Sergeant Major and I appreciate the efforts of getting that new coin. So as soon as it's out, we'll definitely be pushing it out to the team.
All right.
Okay. civilian
civilian staff.
recognitions.
Okay.
Yes. So for those individuals that are normally working behind the scenes and you don't have an opportunity to see them, but their contributions are definitely immeasurable, we'd like to recognize our Department of the Army civilians. Starting with the first one, Mr. Don McKay from Kansas City Battalion Ops, Civilian Achievement Medal. Ms. Crystal Clark, Kansas City Battalion Social Media, Civilian Achievement Medal. Mr. Richard Beckett, Kansas City AMPA, Civilian Achievement Medal. And to Mr. Khalid Amamari, San Antonio Battalion S1, On the Spot Cash Award.
All right. Miss Rosemary Escobedo from our Brigade S1, On the Spot Cash Award. Mr. Mike Keefe, our Brigade S2, On the Spot Cash Award. Mr. James Ryan, our Brigade 4, On the Spot Cash Award. And Miss Dixie Terrell, our Personal Security Manager, On the Spot Cash Award. Congratulations to you all. Love our civilian staff.
All right, congratulations to everybody mentioned here today. Your excellence is truly remarkable, and we do appreciate everything that you do every single day. Up next, we have Major White for the COVID-19 vaccine update. She is our behavioral health consultant.
Good afternoon, team. So I'm here today to stand in for Lieutenant Colonel Williams, providing you an update on COVID-19 vaccination. So as a team, we're doing very well. So we have progressed from phase 1, phase 1 Alpha, phase 1 Bravo, and we're currently in phase 1 Charlie. When it comes to phase 1 Charlie, these are individuals that are 65 to 74 years old. And also, these are individuals 16 to 74 who may have a condition that's considered severe or a high risk. And also individuals from phase 1 Bravo and phase 1 Alpha who have not completed their vaccination as of yet. So one thing we want to keep in mind is that when you get vaccinated, there is a possibility you might get side effects. And these side effects are pretty minor for the most part, such as pain, swelling, or redness at the site of the injection, chills, tiredness, or headache. Keep in mind, sometimes when we have these side effects from vaccination, it let us know that the vaccine is working. It's actually doing its job. Also, if you do get any of these side effects, they typically occur very quickly, and it's between 2 days. Within 2 days time frame, you'll be able to see these symptoms or experience them. So I know there's some concerns about the symptoms, and when you get the first dose, you will experience some, and the second dose might be a little bit more intense. But please keep in mind, if you have a significant allergic reaction to the vaccine, please let your PCM know. And that's one of the reasons why when you get your vaccine, they keep you on site for the 15 minutes or so, just to make sure if you do have a reaction, they can provide a proper treatment. So overall, we're doing well. If you have any issues, any concerns, please do not hesitate to give Lieutenant Colonel Gene Williams a call or email, and we'll be able to provide you with additional information. Thank you.
Major White, thank you very much for the very thorough update. We do appreciate it. Up next, we have the State of the Brigade.
All right, team, let's talk about what the organization is looking like as a whole. So I'll start off by addressing our third quarter mission, which goes April to June. So right now for regular Army, we've achieved 1,096 contracts from our mission of 5,954, sitting at 18.4%. For Army Reserve, we've achieved 209 of our 1,078 contract requirements, sitting at 19.4%. So overall as a brigade, we're not where we need to be. We've got a lot more work to do, but I know and I trust that you all can get it done. So for phase line April, where we are at now, we have 20 processing days left. We experienced a setback with the winter storm, Winter Storm Uri a couple weeks ago. So we definitely have to come out the gates running a little bit harder than we probably initially would to gain the momentum and get ourselves back on track. So Major, over to you for any updates for mission.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. So I'm going to leadership and discipline. So now more than ever across our command, and I'm talking about 5th Recruiting Brigade, we have to really understand who our non-commissioned officers are and soldiers in our formation. And that goes directly to that hands-on leadership. Because the reality is, at the station level, that small unit, if we're not knowing each other, understanding what makes each other tick, understanding what makes each other go and do the job that we have to do every day, then we're going to miss the boat, and that goes directly towards mission accomplishment and unit readiness and overall Army readiness. We have to train and certify our leaders at echelons, and a couple of things that the Brigade has postured that really was initiated starting 1 March is we have our recruiter recertification program that just started up, recertification. We have our company commander and first sergeant development program that we just wrapped up a couple days ago. And then we also have our master sergeant and first sergeant developmental program that is being headed by myself and also Major White with the leadership development piece. So there's a lot of initiatives going on in regards to leadership and discipline, and that's going to help us to get after our mission accomplishment. And over to the commander for the way ahead to talk a little bit about National Hiring Day.
Okay, before we go to the way ahead, Sergeant Major, I'll definitely just go back just to expound upon our mission, looking at the environmental factors that have definitely impacted recruiting operation for our recruiting NCOs. So we know we're coming, I'll say we're coming on the downhill side of this COVID. When it started last year, it definitely crippled recruiting operations. The command as a whole kind of went to a complete halt. And then we had to kind of figure out, one, how are we going to operate in that environment and gain the momentum we needed to be a successful organization. And I think with that came a lot of learning and adaptability and TTPs that I don't think the recruiting as a whole has ever been impacted by. So as for those of you that had the opportunity to see me on BFC, we've had this discussion. And the analogy that I like to use, or the example I like to use, is when we went into OIF, when we went into Iraq. We did not have any policies, regulatory guidance, or tactics, techniques, and procedures for counterinsurgencies and how to mitigate IEDs that our soldiers were experiencing on the roads. But we didn't pull out, we didn't raise the white flag and surrender. We adapted to the environment, and we came up with those TTPs that allowed us to be successful and to continue on with the mission. And I have challenged and asked many of you as I've been out and had an opportunity to have face-to-face discussion with station commanders and company leadership, as well as the battalion leadership, that we have to be adaptable. We've got to figure out ways to overcome the environment because we still have to recruit. I talked to you all about the strategic importance of what you do as recruiters, because if we don't put people in uniform and we don't put people in boots, what happens to our Army? And you can't maintain the greatest Army in the world if you don't have the soldiers to fill the ranks. So with that, we definitely have had some challenges this year. Being with schools been in a virtual environment, it's very difficult to have that face-to-face prospecting or see the students where we've normally been in the classroom. So I've asked you all to find ways to work around it. I've asked commanders, lean on your community influencers or community partners to help you get inside those schools where you can. Virtual presentations are a must. And as now the school year is starting to come to a close, yes, you have it where some schools are operating in a hybrid environment and some are going to finish the school year complete virtually, whereas we have a few that have started opening back up to in-person learning. But in the next 2 to 3 months, we're not going to know where the students are because they'll be on summer break. So you have to start shaping operations for the summer and looking forward into the fall when they do get back into the classroom on how we're going to get ahead of the challenges that the environment presents so we can continue to be successful as we recruit. Looking at leadership and discipline. So Sergeant Major talked about exercising hands-on leadership. I'm going to shift it a little bit and look at the organization as a whole. The culture of the USAREC as a command, or the culture of the brigade when we talk about recruiting. The one thing that I highlight a lot as I talk to soldiers is that we cannot continue to feel like USAREC is a different entity. It's a 2-star headquarters in the United States Army. We have a mission set, just as any other division size headquarter has. Our mission set just happened to be recruiting quality applicants to fill the ranks of the Army. And with that, if we're also at a divisional 2-star headquarters that are with soldiers who are serving in the Army with one mission, we have to recognize and realize that there's only one standard, and that's the Army standard. And I think if we are adhering to the Army standard 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because we're soldiers both on and off duty, then the leadership and discipline, that's going to fall into place. Key thing in this environment is accountability. We have to hold one another accountable. You have to hold yourself accountable, and you should be holding your battle buddies accountable. We can't have pockets of individuals that's contributing to mission and then others aren't, because as a whole, the team is not successful. What we're doing in the recruiting realm, it's a team sport. It takes everybody to pull their weight. So I just challenge the team to continue to push forward. I know it's difficult. The Sergeant Major and I understand the challenges that present itself out there, but we're definitely here to provide you the resources and tools you need to be successful. And please don't hesitate to come up on the net if there's tools or training opportunities that you think would help your organization, would help your station to get better, because that's what we're looking for, opportunities to make the command a better place. Hybrid seat counseling, very important, because this is where you're providing the mission and objectives that you want your recruiting and non-commissioned officers to achieve. And in addition to the hybrid C, we have to make sure that we're also integrating performance counseling in, because we don't want to wait until an individual is ready to receive their evaluation after a 12-month period for you to tell them they have missed the mark or they have not been successful as recruiting non-commissioned officers. So with that, Sergeant Major, do you want me to go into way ahead, or you want to hit anything?
We'll talk about way ahead. So a couple of things, team. So we know we have the Army National Hiring Days coming up, and right now we have been kind of doing the rehearsals. We've been doing the build up to Army National Hiring Days with Operation Fresh Start, which is wrapping up through the virtual career fairs. And as we travel around to the battalions, to the VRTs, and to the different stations, we can see the momentum building up until the actual Army National Hiring Day starting in May, ending on June 14th. So that's going to be an exciting event. So get within your community, get the virtual career fairs started up, get in the virtual space, and let the community know that the Army is there, both physically and virtually. That is going to be huge. Battalion changes of command, and not only battalion changes of command, but leadership in general changing out this summer. We all know that PCS season is coming up this quarter. So at echelon, from the station commanders to the company commanders all the way up to the battalions, we're going to have leaders moving all across this brigade and all across this command. So it is important that we have the continuity, we have the sponsorship, and we have the leadership in place to maintain momentum and to close out the rest of this year. With that, I'll turn it over to you for anything else.
All right, so Sergeant Major addressed the Army National Hiring Day. That is probably our 25-meter target. That's definitely going to drive success and momentum for the brigade. I had an opportunity to spend some time with the El Paso team early this week, the Sergeant Major and I. And some things that we need to start looking at as a command are those pre-COVID events, those what was normally considered a large-scale event. We got to start planning for those again. But what we have to take in mind is that risk assessments need to be done, because we have to also factor in the fact that there's COVID. You've got your CDC guidelines as well as your local, state and local guidelines that you're going to have to adhere to. But we can't wait for it to go back to what our normalcy was pre-COVID to start getting ahead of some of those things. So I challenge all of you to start with your doing your future soldier swear-ins, pulling it in your community partners, and ensuring that family members are there to recognize those individuals, because that is a significant milestone. Reaching out and using TARE assets for those of you that are in the proximity of a military installation. And also, the big ones, you have CASAs, which are your civilian aides to the Secretary of the Army, and your reserve ambassadors in your communities. They are looking for opportunities to assist us. Sergeant Major and I had an opportunity to talk with members of the El Paso Chamber of Commerce, which included a CASA as well as a AUSA member. And what they're telling us is, hey, nobody's coming up on the net saying that they need any assistance. So there are things, sometimes resources that we don't have and we can't, quickly get our hands on as an Army. But you have individuals in the community that have those resources available at their fingertips, and they're willing and wanting to use them. But they won't know if we don't come up on the net and tell them that we need that help and assistance. Sergeant Major highlighted the change of command. So this summer, you always have it every year, the turnover of leadership at the battalion level. We're going to see it at the company level and the station level. Make sure you have a transition plan in place, particularly for those key leadership positions where there will be no overlap. Because if you've already planned for it, then it doesn't cause any degradation in mission, the continuation of mission and taking care of your subordinate soldiers when we've got a plan in place. Semi-annual planning conference, we're looking to bring the team here to San Antonio to give the battalion leadership as well as our ops sections an opportunity to synchronize mission requirements across the formation. And I challenge all of you, if there's things that you know should be happening that's not happening, bring that to the conference, because you'll have the right players in the room to have that discussion and to hash that information out at that time. And hopefully everyone has had an opportunity to look at the FY 2021 incentive policy that was just published last week. We've got some new incentive out there, and we'd definitely like to hear your feedback on what we could do to add to that, or if there's something there that it just really doesn't really move you for success. All right, if that's all I have for the State of the Brigade, we can open it up for questions.
Absolutely. Ma'am, Sergeant Major, thank you for the information and insight as we continue to move forward. As you've mentioned, up next we have received some questions from the field. Our first question today is, we are getting recruiters from the schoolhouse that are either overweight and or are on the brink of retirement. These recruiters are disconnected from today's youth, are not energetic about the job, and maybe doesn't present the Army image. What, if any, is the vetting process for our new recruiters, and is there a plan to revamp that process in order to enhance our ability to meet the mission?
Okay, thanks, Ms. Bell. And hey, great question. And so I'm going to read some regulatory stuff first. Not a lot of it, but just so we understand the requirements to be recruiters. So most of these eligibility requirements can be found in the Recruiting and Retention School on website. But you got to be at least 21 years old, but not older than 39. But you can get a waiver up until 45. So some of your soldiers may be coming to you a little bit older, a little bit more mature, and that's okay. They have to be a sergeant in the rank of either a staff sergeant or sergeant. Or they can be a sergeant first class. Now, you may have seen an uptick in sergeants coming out to your formations and to your stations, and that's just because that's the inventory that HRC has been told to really work with. Because in reality, that staff sergeant, I mean, we need them to lead squads. We need them to lead different unit organizations within the operational force. So that's why you're seeing that. They cannot have more than 4 years time in service, and no more than 9 years if they're a sergeant as well. At the sergeant first class, no more than 16 years. Now, they should meet the height and weight. They have to meet the height and weight standards of AR 600-9 when they're selected, when they're leaving their units. One of the things that we have to understand that you may not know is once they go to the recruiting and retention college, as it stands right now, they are not being allowed to, they can't tape them. All right, so the way you may have went through at the time because of COVID, the way you went to where they do the body fat and whole 9 yards, they're not doing that right now. So when they leave their unit, they're saying that they meet the requirements. However, they could be over by the time they go back to their unit and clear. So hopefully that's not happening. But if they do, we're going to have to work with them, when they get to your organizations. The sergeant majors specifically in the battalions know some of the options they have if someone shows up over the body fat percentage. They also have to be in Tattoo compliance with AR 670-1. A waiver can be authorized and have at least 3 years time in service remaining. So those individuals that you may be getting at the 17-year mark, late 16-year mark, as long as they have 3 years left that they can do that duty, you may have some that's going to actually retire. And just also note that recruiters, just like recruiters, drill sergeants, and sharp NCOs, that group of soldiers, the selection process is really, really hard. And there's a small grouping within the Army that we can pull from. So, when we be very selective and when we start not accepting certain individuals, that pool is just going to shrink, and really the Army's inventory of non-commissioned officers that meet the criteria to come on recruiting duty will be non-existent if we be too prescriptive. So I hope that answers the question. It may not be the answer that you want to hear, but I think that the HRC in the schoolhouse is really trying to hone in on that, and so we get the best non-commissioned officer out here in the field.
All right, thank you, Sergeant Major. We do have a follow-up to that question from our Facebook Live page. Is the incentive going to extend a year out into recruiting, or is it going to rerun, if there's any information on that?
The new policy, the current policy, it will extend out a year, and then we'll relook it to see if we need to revamp it for 22.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. For our next question, with discussions on transgender enlistments, how do we as an organization see the way forward with AR 601-210 and AR 40-501 standards?
Yeah, sure. I'll take that one. So we are in the discussion phase. It's in discussion, but it's in discussion at levels beyond us with those that make the policy with our civilian staff. But there's no clear guidance established at this time, and that's until the policy has changed. Right now, we would proceed on it as we've been.
Okay. And our next question, is there a new and more accurate DAT kit coming to stations that is better than the current kit? For example, having applicants who conducts a DAT at the station and pass, however, goes to MEPS and they fail the test.
No, the type of DAT kit that we use is not determined at the USAREC G4 S4 level, but there are specific requirements that determine the type of panel test that should be used on applicants and future soldiers. But unfortunately, and we're seeing this across the command, the DAT kits that we use in our recruiting stations aren't testing to the same, I would say, I think it's nanograms that they test for THC. The nanogram, it doesn't test to that same level as you get when you go down to the MEPS. So it's like you've got the MEPS test is probably a little bit more thorough than the tests that we're doing at our recruiting station. It does make sense for the two to mirror, but if you are seeing where you're getting a lot of issues or discrepancies between you testing an applicant in the station with the DAT kit and they're going down to MEPCOM, down to the MEPS and they're being tested positive, I would ask that you identify that issue with your S4 and have them to relook purchase in addition on a different DAT kit, because on occasion there are manufacturing issues that will cause an entire lot to be defective, and you're going to receive a false negative.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Next up, we have a question about pinks and greens. When will 100% of USAREC have AGSUs?
Okay, all right, that's a great question. I was just asking about mine this morning, as well as some of the soldiers that was coming from the ARC this past week. So the reality, team, is due to the pandemic, the vendor has had significant delays, and I know that this week alone that the number of shipments have kind of doubled from what they were the previous week. I think it was like 54 last week. I think they shipped up to 110 or so from the at least through the S4 channels reporting. But the COVID has had a significant delay in the shipment of the AGSUs. It was restarted back in December 2020, and per PEO soldier, all of the AGSUs for the command or for USAREC are projected to be delivered by summer, so somewhere in June of 2021. Now, officers have been given some different type of guidance that they will be required to purchase theirs, I believe, at the military clothing and sales stores, but they have the guidance for that. And also, you should be getting them, I believe the Recruiting Retention College on Fort Knox have started to issue those as well through the clothing and sales. So hopefully soon is the answer.
All right. Let's see here. Up next, is there any plan to increase the number of females incoming to USAREC? For example, we currently have several stations that have 1 or 0 females at that station.
That's an excellent question. A question that I asked when I started doing battlefield circulation last year. I definitely know the demographics across the formation is not what it needs to be. I mean, when we talk about recruiting non-commissioned officers, our recruiters should look like society. The Army is a very diverse organization, and we need that diverse representation within the recruiting force. But the goal is to have at least 1 female in every station that has at least 6 or more recruiters. If we could get there, that would put the command at about 6% representation of females, but right now we're sitting at about 4%. So what I do challenge my recruiting non-commissioned officer to do, reach back to some of your battle buddies and peers that are still out there in the operational force, and push recruiting. You all have to sell it. You're doing it. Push some of your female soldiers, particularly those that are high speed and they love the Army. They can tell their Army story, to volunteer for a recruiting opportunity, because we do need that representation across the force.
I can add on to that as well. And part is reference to sponsorship as well. So at the station level, whether the station commander or whoever that sponsor is for that inbound soldier coming in. When the soldiers, as you know, get the assignments in, I think it's week 3 of the Recruiting and Retention College, and they reach back to the station, and you see the name pop up on your UMR, if it doesn't make sense, at that time period, you can try to reach back up to your sergeant major at the battalion, explain to them the demographics and what you're looking for, and we can try to request through USEREC G1 either that NCO be diverted, that slot be held, or something like that. Again, it's a request, but that's part of the sponsorship as well, so we can kind of get it right.
All right. Thank you, ma'am, Sergeant Major, for both your answers. Our next question has to do with mission requirements. With the decrease in enlistment volume across the DoD due to the pandemic, how will this affect USEREC mission requirements, and will there be a mission adjustment?
Unfortunately not. There will not be a contract mission adjustment or a reduction. That's not projected at this time. We may see in the future a reduction in the accessions mission, but that would be determined at the end of the recruiting year, and there's been no discussion about that.
Okay. Up next, we have a question. Is there a particular way for stations and recruiters to separate themselves and receive brigade recognition other than production?
Okay, good question. This is actually a question that we've been talking about, I think, this week on our BFC. So a couple of things that you can do, because especially as they change the way they manage the talent for the non-commissioned officers, it is extremely important that we continue to compete against our peers or compete with our peers to make sure we show that we're the best candidates or best non-commissioned officers to go into key billets and key leadership positions. So we do have got to participate in USEREC boards such as Audie Murphy, non-commissioned officer of the quarter board, end of the year board. We just wrapped up the second quarter board here a week ago, had some outstanding competitions, over 26 from across the brigade, and we selected 4 at brigade level for the quarter to come back to our annual board. So get with your peers in the station and your trainers to see how to do that. Also aim to be top recruiter of the month, the quarter, the year, or top station. Compete for the master recruiter badge. That is something that can actually go on to your record. Go into your SRB and show the Army that, hey, you're standing above your peers. The Recruiter Excellence Ring, as you know, and the Glennie Morale Medallion are all competition awards as well to help you stand out. So those are all special recognitions within the command. Now, upcoming and at the end of April, I will tell you, we have the Sergeant Audie Murphy Club Board, and we also have the Brigade Best Warrior. And this is a challenge for each one of you all. I am looking for soldiers to attend the Audie Murphy board and the Best Warrior for the Brigade board to compete at USEREC and TRADOC is what we're looking for. So that's coming up at the end of April. Please get with your leadership and chain of command and get your packets together, because we're going to bring you right here to JBSA San Antonio, Fort Sam Houston, to have some camaraderie, some leadership development, and to kind of regreen yourself on some of those soldier tactics and techniques. All right.
You want to hit the highlights, Sergeant Major, where we've partnered with some of the installations?
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. So we have partnered with 3 Corps. In fact, we just talked to the 3 Corps leadership team back in December, and then we had our latest interaction with them yesterday out in Dallas. So 3 Corps leadership, Sergeant Major Burgoyne and Lieutenant General White, has agreed to allow our non-commissioned officers to help set themselves apart, to make sure that they are competitive in their MOSs and CMFs in this command and when they lead this command. So things like the Expert Soldier Badge. If we have any medical NCOs out there, which I know we do, the EFMP badge as well to compete for. And anything else like schools that 3 Corps and Fort Hood offers, they have opened that up to our brigade. And our trainers know how to get you on the list, get in contact with them, to make sure that you compete for some of those slots. Cool.
All right, a lot of good information there, some great ideas and insight for our soldiers to take and run with them. Next question, what is the correct way to formally submit a complaint about a MEPCOM's SOP or regulation violation?
MEPCOM. You want to take that one?
Yeah, I got that one.
We've heard about MEPS all week.
Yes,
so
that's been a hot discussion item. So what I would recommend individuals do is, if you've particularly things that are impacting your ability to achieve success with recruiting operations, document it, push it up through your ops channels or your command teams, And at your battalion command level, your commander and sergeant major, they have the opportunity to sit on quarterly IRC meetings with the MEP staff. If this is something that is more Army specific or DOD specific, then push it through the battalion ops channel when they should send it to brigade ops, and we will package it for USAREC to review and provide us feedback. But I have asked several of you that I've encountered over the last couple of weeks with some key MEPS issues that we're seeing, be it with med reads and waivers, that's taken an extended period of time to go through the system, to document that and send it up, because I would definitely like to have the opportunity to address those concerns with the MEPCOM commander here on JBSA to see if we can't make some headway.
Okay, fantastic. Let's see, up next we have a question about third quarter. With the increase in mission for third quarter, is the brigade or USAREC doing anything to assist the process?
Well, the increase to the mission is usually proportional to the number of processing days that you have per quarter. So that's why it fluctuates from quarter to quarter. And I know one issue that I've seen since being on board is that normally we get the mission for the year, and now we're getting it quarterly, which some station commanders have addressed to Sergeant Major and I that it doesn't provide them as much predictability as a yearly mission would do. So for this year, USAREC allocated 500 Cat 4s. We received 100 across the command, and we definitely filled all of those. We don't have any future allocations at this time, and then of course there's been no documentation or no conversation about changes to our waiver process. We do have an opportunity, Sergeant Major and I, to meet with the USAREC command team next week during the governance, and these are some things that we do want to address as a command to see if there is going to be any headway or any change in the future. Additionally, what the brigade has done is we have over $458,000 in advertisement and media dollars, and I highly, highly encourage you all to use that, even down to the station level. There are ways that you can be advertising at the station level, and those, particularly in your top 5 of your priority zip codes, to reap some benefits and dividends for your respective station. The battalions and the brigade is hoping to secure over $1 million by the end of March, and that is to help us support Army National Hiring Day with digital media and lead generating programs for the team.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, ma'am. We have a follow-up question regarding one of our earlier questions about the DAT kits coming from our live Facebook page post. Can they contract out the DAT kits?
Right now, that's a good question, and if somebody in the room can take that as an RFI. I know I initially had the Brigade to look into this a couple months ago, and there are different options in the GSA catalog, but the contracting piece, I don't think is something we ever thought about it, because that would probably baseline it across USAREC, and everybody in the command would be using the same DAT kits.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And another question from our Facebook page: are there any new ADC items for the near future?
So the catalog.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's one of the discussion points that the brigade commanders and I plan to address with the USAREC CG and Sergeant Major next week. Is one additional item, the fact that we hadn't had much out there due to the pandemic and things being available, but also expanding the type of items that are out there. I would ask if, particularly for the recruiting NCOs, you all know what the future soldiers are looking for. You know, what's the trends. If there are things that's not out there and you have ideas, please push them up so we can push that up to higher.
Okay, and then another question from our Facebook page. For the VRS recruiting stations, with soldiers coming and going, they are feeling like they are close to failing. Is there a way that we can have an identified method of finding soldiers to fill the VRS before the current soldiers leave?
Yes, so I'll jump in that one. So we're trying to, what's happening at the Recruiting Retention College, they're trying to identify those soldiers that have that technical expertise, or at least that technical know-how to try to go into the VRS stations ahead of time. We're getting a call directly from the recruiting schools command sergeant major, and we're trying to place them. Also, your command sergeant majors, we are working through the MER process with G1 and HRC. So that is the process of record for the command and really direction for the Army. So we're trying to get better. This is like our fourth iteration with the enlisted MER cycle. We're trying to really code those positions earlier so we can make sure that we get some type of backfill before the incumbent leaves. Unfortunately, I do know at times that we have those unforecasted losses that kind of takes the non-commissioned officer out of the slot before a backfill, arrives on station. So that is a priority of the brigade. It is a priority of the command when we sit down, when we talk back and forth with G1. So we're definitely trying to work on that.
Okay, and we have our next to last question. So if there's any more questions from the field, go ahead and submit those in our comment section. We're wrapping up here, so if you have anything that you're thinking of that you would like to ask our Colonel Jordan or Sergeant Major Smith, now is your opportunity to get that question in. Next to last question here, given the legalization of marijuana in many states and possibly soon at the federal level, are there any plans to increase leniency for applicants testing positive for THC or address the change in standards?
So not at this time, and I know I have spoken, and we have heard this question probably on each BFC. The G3 has talked this question, and I believe they have talked it with higher echelon. But at this time, there's no pending change to the standard. And this is something that we'll bring up. We can kind of get an update next week at the governor's forum when we talk to the command leadership to see if that stance have changed and the way forward has changed on that. But at this time, unfortunately, well, no.
Okay, good information to have. We have a mission question coming in. Are there any future soldier loss forgiveness with regard to the future?
I don't.
Yeah, I would say at this time, I would say no. I will tell you all, as a command, we're starting to see a positive uptick with future soldier losses. It's not as bad as it was 3 or 4 months ago, but we are still experiencing the illicit apprehension piece. So definitely the conversation and dialogue to make sure that the commitment is engendered. We need to start that early to continue to mitigate it. But we've seen a positive uptick, so we're going in the right direction. And with this COVID, with the tide turning on COVID, hopefully that'll provide some additional positive commitments engendered from the future soldiers as well.
Okay, and we do have one last minute question coming in. Are high school seniors and juniors protected with regard to staying in station?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Currently high school seniors and juniors, per the command guidance, they belong to that station RSID. I know every station and area is different because you have busings, you have certain people that live in this zip code, but go to school in another zip code. But right now they belong to the station, that's assigned to that school in the system. Yes, they are protected. Okay. And if you run into any issues, your battalion has the capability to do board edits and adjudicate within the battalion, and the brigade commander can adjudicate across battalion boundary lines within the brigade. So.
Okay, and I just want to say out to the field, it's wonderful to see all these questions coming in. We have one more question.
Okay. Yeah, let's take it.
Are there any future plans to bring back MAVNI?
Okay.
I don't know. I'll refer to Sergeant Major. I'm not sure what that is.
No, there has been no talk in the current policy to bring back the MAVNI program. I know that's, that's pretty much like the military vital interest. So that's when we could put in individuals that had a specific skill set that the Army needed at that particular time to help the Army fight and win. Right now, unless policy changes, we have not heard of any requirements to bring that back. When they do, if they do, and when they do, we'll be ready. So I know that is a concern. I think we're still taking some MAVNI losses out there somewhere that's been in our program for at least the last 2 or 3 years. So.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Out to the field, everybody who is joining us virtually for this town hall, we want to thank you for your time. We appreciate you joining us today. Please do look forward as you can. Expect some more virtual town halls coming in the future. We will be happy to join you virtually. I just want to say thank you again for your time. We appreciate it. Have a great weekend, and I will turn it over to Colonel Jordan and Sergeant Major Smith for any closing remarks.
Sergeant Major, over to you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. I'll be brief. So, hey, team, so as I started this town hall, I said I was extremely proud to be your command sergeant major. So I am your voice at the table with the brigade commander and when we go up to higher echelon. So I have no people in front of me. And what I mean by that is I am accessible to you. Not only when I do battlefield circulation, but also via email, via text, via social media reach out, or just pick up the phone and call and say, hey, this is on my mind. I get several emails, a week from non-commissioned officers, and I will definitely get back to you. So I am your command sergeant major. I'm proud to be your command sergeant major, and I look forward to seeing you within the brigade operating environment as we rotate around.
Well, thank you, Sergeant Major. Well, team, thank you all for participating and listening in. I definitely appreciate all of the questions. Hopefully, Sergeant Major and I covered the things that you all wanted to hear, but if not, recommend just post it on the Facebook page, and the team here in AMPA will definitely get it to us, and we'll get you an answer. Proud of what each and every one of you do every day. Proud to be the commander of this great organization. And as our motto says, recruit like a champion to win the day. We can and we will win the day. Open door at this level always. So we're looking for recommendations for the team to get better, ways that we can improve, and ways that we can help you all be successful as recruiting non-commissioned officers. With that, you all have a great weekend. Stay safe and be blessed.
All right. Colonel Jordan, Sergeant Major Smith, thank you for your time. We appreciate your time and your insight as we continue to move forward.
Thank you.